listen, we're just so thrilled. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. I have been listening to your music for a really long time. I have also been, pulling up the video of She Keeps Me Warm during these lonely times of COVID to, just it's such important music, and I think uplifting and authentic, sometimes really poignant, many times poignant. So I'm just so glad to have you here today. Um, Mary, for some of our audience who might not know you, how would you describe yourself as an artist?
I think I would. I'm definitely. I feel like I'm the slash genre. I feel like at my core, I'm a singer songwriter. But as a poet, I've released a collection of poetry that talks about mental health and body positivity and kind of the dark ends of that. A lot of trauma, sexual assault, and so in that I feel like I'm a healer disguised as an artist.
Mary, tell me about your coming out story. What was that like for you, and how did your personal or maybe even spiritual or religious upbringing play into that?
Yeah, I grew up Pentecostal, which is just so fun when you're gay. And my mom actually started dating women. And so obviously we were completely ostracized from the church. That was pretty much the only community we had. So it was a really drastic shift from going to church like 3 or 4 times a week and spending like basically getting my education there. And we really relied, we were really poor, so we relied a lot on those resources. Um and then just going to a complete poverty of a spiritual connection.
Mm.
And I think during that time, unfortunately, my mom was in an abusive relationship with a woman, so I had a bad sort of, I wouldn't say like a bad association with same-sex marriage or same-sex relationships, but I just saw, maybe I saw them for what they were, which was that, you know, these like toxic relationships can happen in any context.
Right.
Um, and I didn't come out until I was 17,
Mm.
and I probably would have come out earlier had I known that it was possible. And I feel like for a lot of the queer community, like it kind of takes a person to like wake something up in you that you're like, oh, I'm attracted to you, like this kind of person. And I had never met anybody like, the girl I was attracted to. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, this is what everybody's talking about. Like this is what attraction and love and excitement is. And the most difficult thing that I encountered was that my inner demons um was my belief and relationship to God and to the church, and feeling like I knew I couldn't change, but I thought that if I repented every day, that God would forgive me. If God forgives murderers on death row, if God forgives people who do heinous acts, then God would forgive me for doing, an equally heinous act of, sin. And I think when you're 17 and you feel like you don't belong already, for what I mean, none of us really feel like we're in the right body or space, or like anyone understands us. It's really, I mean, you're trying to figure out your own identity as you are, and then to feel like God doesn't accept you. It feels like spiritually, psychically, like you're never going to be loved.
Mhm.
Um, so I attempted suicide. I attempted suicide when I was 17. But then I discovered that there were other churches that were accepting, and I started going to an Episcopalian church,
Mm.
and I felt like I belonged, and I felt like I could continue having this like divine relationship to God and the community, and letting go of this, the harmful indoctrination of God hates gay people. And I felt like I was able to get to a place of freedom.
Yeah. So let's talk about She Keeps Me Warm, which is part of another song that Macklemore did and brought your music into it. Can you, a lot of people know this song. Many of us love this song. It's like an anthem. And I just wondered if you could share, how did that song come to you?
So I was in the process of applying to graduate school, and it felt divine because I never had a day off. I just was constantly working, and it was my only day off. It was like my only day off for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I got this call from my friend Hollis, who I had previously done a lot of spoken word performances with and gigs with. So Hollis called me and she said, Macklemore's working on a song about gay rights. Do you want to take a crack at it? I told him about you. I was like, yes. Oh my God, yes. And she said, okay, well, they're gonna send you the song, and can you go to the studio later tonight and see if you can come up with something? So I had 2 hours to work on this hook, and most people think that I wrote "She Keeps Me Warm" before "Same Love," but I wrote "Same Love." I wrote the chorus for specifically "Same Love" and then developed it as a derivative. So I I was really, really nervous, but I knew that when I heard the song, I was like, I'm meant to do this song. As a queer Christian, I'm like, this is my story. This is exactly what I've experienced. And I wrote 4 different choruses because I so badly wanted this that I was like, I'm going to make it so there's nobody else that will come up with anything better than me. I went to the studio and I sang them the chorus, and I remember Macklemore had they both had tears in their eyes, and I was like, I nailed it, I got it, you know.
What a powerful experience to, first of all, to be brave and persistent and like, I'm not going to miss this opportunity, number one, but then, and just to know that, and to be able to feel in the moment just how much it resonated with people. But what got me, and I'm wondering if, when Macklemore had tears in his eyes and everybody else, when you bellow, I'm not crying on Sunday. And back to what you just said about faith and spirituality, that is what kind of slayed me at the time, because it's a declaration, but it is like it's a battle cry when you feel like you might have to fight these forces that make you feel bad every day.
Yeah,
You're just laying it down and saying, I'm not crying on Sunday.
yeah, that's exactly it. I think, sometimes I get caught up in my relationship to the trajectory of it, and this flood of stories and emails and messages and meeting people and hugging people and crying with people was extremely transformative. Just the Not just the stories I heard from gay people feeling like they belonged, and the queer community feeling like they couldn't believe what they were hearing on the radio, but getting those emails from conservative right-wing grandparents and dads and moms that previously didn't understand their children and suddenly got it, or felt something. Listen, I'm gonna start crying, but to be part of that. And I think in our sort of sarcastic, cynical world, "Same Love" to some people can be kind of cheesy, or it's not really, it wouldn't be the moment for it now, but at that time it was so it felt really pivotal. It felt like being a part of something huge, and having an anthem for this dramatic shift. I can't believe that I got to have that experience, that I got to witness this incredible transformation, and just hearing thousands of people not care about the pronoun and just say, "She keeps me warm." These like teenage girls that were, straight, or these, like, Anybody was just, they were just singing it, and I felt like we're doing something, we're part of something.
Talk to us about that journey for you and your choice to actually be out about what I would just call mental health and well-being.
I experienced some really intense childhood trauma, and some I was sexually abused by my dad from a really young age, and up until I was, 10 or 11, had experienced pretty severe psychological and emotional trauma and abuse. I realized the power of vulnerability, that vulnerability is really the key to empathy. It's an invitation to another person saying, I'm here's my shit, and um do you have some shit? And maybe we can bond over this, and maybe there's some sort of connection that's on a deeper level other than, you know, beyond values, beyond what music we listen to. And I just feel like connection is what's going to get us through. Connection is what builds community, and it makes us want to live and see the next day. I just believe in the power of talking about trauma and talking about uncomfortable things. I am a more joyful, well-adjusted, comfortable, happy human being because of my ability to be in touch with the darkness, and to know that I can't have this complete, full, uninhibited joy without understanding and respecting some of the dark parts, and the grief. And that's where I live.
Let's talk about Dear Joe.
Hmm.
J.K. Rowling, who many people know and love Harry Potter and that whole series, um, in this last year came out with really statements that were seen and felt as very harmful to the trans community, our wider LGBTQ community. You actually were an artist that confronted another artist in a really beautiful way through this song, through Dear Joe. And so talk to us about Dear Joe and about what it meant for you to at least try to appeal one-on-one to somebody on behalf of a community. Because I see that as an incredibly powerful act of allyship that artists can do pretty uniquely.
Hmm. God, my feelings are just so complicated. I think on the same end of that civic responsibility, when you have a platform, or you have wealth, or power, or platform, you have a responsibility to thoughtfulness. And what I have, what I think is so nefarious and sinister about Rowling's tweets, and she released an entire manifesto on her website, explaining why she wasn't transphobic. And I think what's so nefarious about that is that it is thoughtful. She has thought about it. It's not this sort of knee jerk, something you could pawn off as totally ignorant. She's articulate, she's powerful. And I guess the overwhelming thought I had was, why? Why share? What does it accomplish? Your fear that cis women have their single sex spaces taken away is rooted in the belief that trans women aren't women. And so that as the basis for your belief is inherently transphobic. And maybe you have one trans friend that said you're fine. That's not, they don't speak for the whole community. And if the whole community writ large says this is harmful, this is an act of violence against us, you promoting these ideas is actively perpetuating something that causes harm to us, it is your responsibility as a public figure to listen to people who are marginalized. It is absolutely your responsibility to do so. When you perpetuate ideologies like that, you are you are actively causing violence to a group of people, and you don't get to choose or say whether or not your position is transphobic or not. You don't get to say whether your positions are racist or not.
Mhm.
You could say it's not what I'm intending, but you don't get to say as a defining statement that your position or your beliefs or your rhetoric isn't harmful to the community.
Mhm.
So it wasn't just it wasn't just her belief system. I think it was also the frequency and the timing of her constant posting, and that it was also cloaked in this like fear. It was no it was cloaked in concern. That's what it was. I'm concerned for trans people. I'm concerned for our children. And when I saw this act of violence from J.K. Rowling, it felt like I can't let this stand. Especially, I don't know what it is about Harry Potter, but so many gay people like Harry Potter. It is like it
Yeah.
means it means something to so many queer people. And honestly, the books were coming out when I was a teenager. The books were coming out when I was coming out.
Mhm.
And I remember, like, part of the reason I wanted to stay alive was because I wanted to know what was going to happen to Harry.
Mhm.
I wanted to know what would happen in the next book. I stayed alive because of it. So I have my own deep emotional relationship to these books. And to know that the creator, the writer of these books is um, doubling down on transphobic rhetoric that actively harms, the communities that I'm protective of. The way you meet people is with understanding and love. And really the question in the song is like, do you know what you did? Do you can you do you understand? Do you know the people that you've hurt? You don't get to say whether or not you've hurt somebody. It's like, you know, argument 101. you don't get to you don't get to choose. So anyway, and then originally I was just donating 50% of the proceeds to the Transgender Law Center and the Ellie Forney Project, but I just decided to do 100% because
Wow.
it's not. I don't want to. I don't want to take up that space and not have it mean something, and not have it um, do something tangible for the community.
It's really an extraordinary gift. I mean, there's your music itself, there's sharing the proceeds, there's the mantle of protection and advocacy and allyship that is wrapped all in that. So thank you for that. What has it meant for you personally? What we're going through in the last few months with this pandemic. And one question we're asking a lot of folks this summit, and I would love for you to answer it too, is um, I think we've gone through a door of no return with any kind of hopes that things will return to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you think about that and about, um, you know, how things are changing so dramatically, what do you hope, especially as an LGBTQ person, what do you hope that, but also just, as a human being and an empathetic, beautiful person, what do you hope we discard and get rid of that COVID has shown light on? And um, what do you hope we retain or build or carry forward out of this?
So I'm not sure. I think it's hard because you want to keep saying, well, when everything goes back to normal, and that feels like what if it never happens? And I think, those of us with anxiety have been preparing for this moment our whole lives. We've been concerned about a global pandemic since we were young, and now it's confirmed. And now we don't leave our houses, which was probably very much the same before the pandemic. All you can do right now is be the most kind and generous and gentle being you can. And that's what we have to contend with, is what's happening right this moment.
I love that. But what are you doing to take care of yourself to ensure that you're like personally making out of this moment everything you
I'm
can?
a glutton for self-care. And I mean all the self-care. I mean the cheesy, shitty movies and shitty shows and cookies and baths. And I also mean like the deep work, the introspective, analytical therapy, like addressing childhood trauma stuff. I think there needs to be a balance of that sort of like shallow version of self-care and the distraction, and also the insular internal work. Between tours, I'm usually working on different projects. So that's kind of what's happening right now. I'm working on a book on how to love your body and how to love yourself when you are, and lived most of your life hating yourself. How can you intuitively eat and listen to yourself and practice like deep self-love in a with a relationship to your higher self and your higher goals, and addressing habits, addressing my relationship to the world. And so I'm working on that, and it's just been such a joy just where I'm
Well,
at.
I'm glad you're talking about it because, frankly, I think within the queer community, there may be an assumption out there that once we finally belong, right, and we're in our small circles where we can finally be ourselves, which is true for a lot of people. The other part of this we don't talk about a lot is the kind of construct and models of like, what does the perfect queer person look like, and how does butch and femme identity show up, and how, there's a lot of research out there about anorexia and bulimia as a growing phenomenon in men, right? And I think we have to just, I think, be careful that we're not forgetting about watching these trends within the queer community, because we're all, I mean, no matter who we are, these images about, perfect bodies and what they look like
Right.
be so destructive. It's one of the things I'm most excited about in the evolution of gender,
Yes.
because we're seeing all these incredibly beautiful examples of identity and expression. And it's, for me, it's art, and it's creativity, and it's beauty, and it's love. And it's one of my favorite things about us as a queer
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, absolutely. And my partner's non-binary, and just this idea that there's only two genders, like how incredibly unimaginative. How reductive. Why not have a galaxy of gender, and why not be able to express yourself in a different way that doesn't fit social norms.
I'm just wondering if there's anything else you want to talk about, or final messages. This has been a delight, by the way.
This has been like just one of the best interviews ever. I've just had such a
Oh,
wonderful time.
yeah.
Um, I guess I would say that in order to really create change and to see a world that is um, that is fair and just and equal, we have to do the internal work, and that can feel really messy and scary and uncomfortable. Once we are fair and kind to ourselves with our beliefs of whatever those shortcomings are, the better we can be accountable and fair to the people around us, or the people that work for us or work our in our communities.
Well, listen, keep going with your important work, and You know, we just really adore you. And I have just found such strength and sustenance in your work for so many years. And I mean, just sometimes we're alone, and music is so important, and it really was for me. So thank you for being brave and telling your story on all these fronts, and for being just so beautiful, and for just loving us and our community so much. So thank you, Mary Lambert. We love you.
I love you.
It's a love fest.
Yes. Thank you so much.